Hello everyone. This is a tribute to all women of the world for Women's International Week. Usually I write a poem for Women's International Day, but this year I'm out and about in my own space here in West Belfast to tell the world of women about the greatness of the women I have known throughout my lifetime. I'm 72 years old now and have mourned many great women, including my own dear mother. It has been an inspiration to have walked in my youth with the young girls who went to prison, and sadly to have known some who died for an ideal. Here I mention but a few of all the true heroines who in turn represent so many more from all over our world of women. Happy Women's International Day from West Belfast, Ireland. Internees. We were all like young saplings, except for Madge. Years had given her wisdom, like the oak trees that we sang to in the park, and carved our initials deep into their bark, never knowing how much a tree might hurt, nor did we care at the time, for nothing mattered then that we could not rhyme. As we stood to attention in line, saluting our fallen dead, words from the proclamation would always proudly be read. Though the prison yard was small, it was large enough for us to play, parade and pray, and breathe fresh air for a limited time each day. They took our time and caged us in with only cement and wire. They thought that imprisonment would dampen freedom's fire. But neither death nor prison were enough to shatter freedom's dream. For we were all growing oaks, standing side by side. Now over 50 years and 3, I think of us, each of us a tree, and hope they think the same of me. Liz McKee, Teresa Holland, Anne Walsh, Angela Nelson, Mary Delaney, Colette Mulvena, Marion Frail, Anne Doherty, Brenda Casson, Margaret Shannon, Kate White, Bridge McPhillips, Lillian Kelly, Anne-Marie McWilliams, Evelyn Gilroy, Mary Kennedy, Geraldine O'Neill, Geraldine McCann, Julia Traynor, Moya Hennessy, Kate Finnegan, Margaret Barr, Annette Kennedy, Roisin O'Reilly, Deirdre Flynn, Mary Robinson, Mairead Tigard, Madge McConville, Jerry Canavan, Claire Delaney, Geraldine Taylor, Jean Delaney, Nuala Tully, Eileen Delaney and Roseleen Watson, me. Merriam Street no longer exists, but it was round this area on the 23rd of September 1971 when Rose Curry and Gerard O'Hare, two members of Na Fianna Éire, attached to the official Republican movement, were assembling a bomb and there was a premature explosion. The two of them died instantly. We were discussing this one night in Lourdes, above all places, when a girl began to relate what happened to her. We were talking about the hand of destiny, and this is what she told us about that night. She said herself and Jared were walking down the street when Rose came towards them. The girl was pushing the pram with the explosives concealed in it. And Jared asked the girl, would she mind if Rose came with them instead of her? She agreed. Rose and Jared went off down the street, and 10 minutes later there was a loud explosion. She knew instantly that they were both dead. And from that time, Rose's father was in prison. He was interned. He got parole, and her family, of course, were brokenhearted. Then a few streets away from here, in another street that no longer exists, Cape Street, there were two sisters exactly 1 month to the day afterwards, Maura and Dorothy Maguire. They were down alerting people with a klaxon horn that the British Army was raiding. They travelled in a car with two other people up Cape Street. The two sisters were seated in the back. Maura was waving the klaxon, which made very large noises, when the British Army opened fire, killing the two sisters instantly. They were both shot in the back of the head. Immediately afterwards, the British propaganda machine started to turn, telling lies that the sisters had a gun, which later was proved to be totally untrue. The Falls Road has many instances of young women being shot dead. Again, not far from here, Patricia Mackay was another 19-year-old girl who was shot also round the same time. This poem was written as a tribute to Anne-Marie McWilliams from the Ballymurphy area. Anne-Marie was one of the youngest female internees in Armagh prison. When Anne-Marie's funeral was taking place, her coffin was brought here, and her comrades stood round the coffin clasping hands, and it was such a beautiful moment. Anne-Marie, their clasped hands together like a chain as they stood around her coffin, symbolically as one, family, comrade, friend, all unified in grief, belief and loyalty. Anne-Marie now rests, her fight over, while those whose hands circle her remains forever now move forward, leaving space for her spirit, because her loving heart stopped beating, too kind a soul to forget. Anne-Marie, now at last in peace eternal. When Maura Drum was shot dead in her hospital bed, she was vice president of Sinn Féin. Maura was a wonderful inspiration to all women from the start of '69 until her death in '76. This is a tribute to Maura that is in the book A Rebel Heart, and Maura was a rebel heart. I was privileged to be part of the Guard of Honour at Maura Drum's wake. My husband had been recently arrested and I was pregnant with my first child. Standing there at the tri-coloured coffin of this great woman seemed so surreal. Maybe I should have felt despair, but I didn't. I felt unafraid, proud and determined to continue in the fight for Irish freedom. To say Murray lit a candle that gave us light would be an understatement. What Murray did was to light a fire in our hearts that would blaze, a fire no amount of torture, nor prison, nor even death could put out. Republican women are all part of the same cloth, woven by great weavers like Mara Drum, with such dedication and determination, and made into material of lasting quality that, like Mara's own legacy, is marvelled at and admired by women of every generation and nation in the world. We're standing outside the family home of Mairead Farrell, who was shot dead in Gibraltar. 45 years ago, I was at Mairead's door the night Laura Crawford, who lived about half a mile away from here, died on active service. Laura was a member of Commedagh. In later years, after Mairead died, we would have vigils on the road carrying placards of her picture. It was a way to remind people who she was. I wrote this poem standing not far from here. A way of remembering Gibraltar. The freezing rain pelted down. I faced the oncoming traffic without blinking as headlights blinded and horns hooted in support of our white line picket. To jolt memories, our attempt to say, remember. The freezing rain pelted down, and I could not have been colder if I had been shot dead with my hands held high above my head in Gibraltar. But here in Belfast, on that apocalyptic night, my hands held the poster across my heart to hold tight the dream they dreamed. The rain got colder and thicker, and our white line picket grew longer and stronger. No one moved or fell out until the end. Soaked to the skin, we hurried home to talk, some to pray, but all to remember that night all those years ago in Gibraltar. This poem is dedicated to all the women of Syria who still suffer daily. Syrian sisters. Syria's defiant women refuse to be silenced. To live with dignity or die is their immortal cry. I heard Serene, who defends protesters in court, say, when asked if she was afraid, I am a brave heart. Serene, I hope you can hear all women of the world say, you Syrian women are all brave hearts. And we stand with you, so you stand not alone. For we know the tears, the blood, the fears, arrests, tortures, taunts and techniques, the darkened cell, a prelude to hell with the promise that you'll be next. They beat you and shoot you with plastic and lead to make a lullaby for Bashar al-Assad, to give him sweet dreams as he's going to bed. Let not our voice be a distant whisper. Let our march or shout or sing or write in solidarity for every Syrian sister who protests for democracy and justice, peace and freedom in her lifetime. This last piece has no title. It's for all women in the world. We, women of the world, unite our hearts and hands and minds to fight for the right, not to fight with guns and bombs and words that kill, or wombs turned into tombs, and all that stills our world. We will unite, black, white and other, unsealing hearts to spread the love that vilified, seduced and reduced us to mere beings of flesh by mankind. Because we make homes and families out of nothing that the others cannot see. So if we dance, we will dance. If we sing, we will sing. And if we pray, we will pray that peace may overcome the chaos. This International Women's Day, March 2023. May all women be free. Two children were shot here 15 years apart with plastic bullets. One in 1981 was Julie Livingstone, a schoolgirl 14 years old, was standing here when she was shot dead with a plastic bullet. 15 years later, my own daughter, Mara, was also shot in the face with a plastic bullet. She was 13 years old at the time. This is a poem about what happened, Mara, my daughter. My beautiful wild child, your dyed blonde hair makes you noticeable everywhere. At first it made me sad to think you weren't happy with what you had. But then I thought, hey, what's so bad at 13 and wanting to change the colour of your hair? It's better that than wanting to be dead. I thought that as you danced on top of my bed, you made me laugh and I promised you money as you called me honey. And the day outside promised to be sunny. Then later that day, as I marched down our road, I remembered the way you called me honey, but it wasn't sunny on the Garvaki road. I'd watched as they beat them back. I cried and drank tea and prayed that somehow that day that God would come himself and set us free. I watched and wondered if God was at Drumcree. By the end of that day, I hated your hair. That's how he noticed you there. He laughed as he aimed with his plastic bullet gun. He must have thought it was loads of fun. He could have killed you, honey, only you turned to see this monster son of the RUC. His gun pointed at your head. If you hadn't turned round, you could have been dead. My beautiful child, my flower in the wild. I no longer mind what colour you dye your hair, as long as you're there with me, and that promise that tomorrow we might be free. My beautiful dyed-haired baby. Let only the sun now touch your face, and each arm raised towards you be to embrace. My beautiful child, my flower in the wild. The death of Benazir Bhutto. She died holding their dream in the palm of her hand. The white silk scarf that had adorned her lovely face, now soaked in royal blood, lies with the other relics that soon will only be seen in glass cases, viewed by spectators who will stand and mourn, mourn and cry, cry and die, die and live for the lily in perpetual bloom, their lily, here and gone too soon. A vision of that lily multiplying below the clay will be their dream that blossoms another day. Those who carry people's dreams in the palm of their hand understand the choice to dream or die, not by death, but by life not worth living. A blessing for my womb. May the fruits of my womb be forever blessed. May the hands and mind of the surgeon who removed my aging womb be blessed with rest and calm and peace as each day closes. And may she remain humble in the presence of her omniscient employer who protects her and keeps her safe in his love. The grief of every mother is the same, regardless of what the child was or what the child had become. I saw Christ's mother on the Falls Road today. Just opposite from where I saw Christ that day, I saw his mother as she made her way to where he lay, shot and bleeding on the ground. Strange that her sobbing made no sound. I got off the glider and turned around as the crowd were swearing at his body dead. I looked and saw it, the hole in his head. It's only a joyrider, they shouted at me, but it wasn't only a joyrider that I could see lying there, but a boy who had potential, now with bloodied hair. His mother it was. I recognised her pain as though she were standing at his cross again. The crowd waited and booed as the ambulance moved and the cops pursued. And there, lost in the crowd, his mother stood, head lowered and lips in prayer. I knew she was his mother, grieving there. Then I went home, sad and alone. Was I becoming more of his pain or more of the crowd?